Oh, I don't know where she says. Up here. Do you have all the numbers? She's one of the cities?
They're the first ones to.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing those.
I know, I said put them in order. Yes,
On the fiber optic for the traffic signals.
yes.
Have we had that requested?
No. And
How many traffic signals are there in the county and how many of them?
so we've done it all. So we can talk about it. You might want to ask me during the meeting just so we cover it. We've never requested it, but we've always done it because we do it with CMAQ projects. And then the road board or the sales tax pays for the match. So these are just different because they're being asked for from the cities. So we can explain more when Jake presents, but. Yeah. Oh, that's good. No. It's good for these two. Yeah, they were all upset they had to sit in the front. I'm like, you have to be on the video. It's very important. Oh, I don't even have my agenda. Oh, that's okay, I'll just mark her in. There's my agenda. I don't probably really need it because Matt does a good job, but I'll get it out anyway. Yes. Yep. Yep. No. Yeah, totally understand. No, I think so. Says that logo that I showed you in the meeting. So it's totally over end. So as long as I don't think we're involved in that rule with that. Yeah. We will get into it later. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think you're fine. Did you get the, I'm good. Did you get the minutes that Matt signed? Okay. They haven't made them yet. Well, it would be administrative change. I'll talk about it.
What kind of email you sent me of the order of presentation? Are you first?
No, I'm last.
You're last.
And
so
it's alphabetical. Dardenne, Prairie.
so
Oh yeah, it's on
follow
here.
on the agenda, and then you'll be last.
And then I'm last. It comes up.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
All right, yep.
That looks like 4 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we can have a roll call, please.
Cindy Fox Griffey. Here. Debbie Haley. Here. Caleb Hunter.
Here.
Matt Johannesman,
Here.
Jeanette Kochner,
Here.
Scott Kochmeyer, Dan Kuntz, Rick Masterson,
Here.
Brian Punman,
Here.
Dick Ruffcar,
Here.
Robert Schmidt,
Here.
James Tagnoni.
I know the minutes for the March 17th meeting were sent out in email form. I assume people had time to look at them. Would entertain a motion to approve or any corrections?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, Dick made a first and Cindy did a second. Any questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go on to public comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Road Board. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, and I just want to go through a couple things before we get into the presentations for the various municipalities and the County Transportation Highways Department. First of all, I'd like to speak about Gateway Greenlight. The county has spent close to over $10 million in the Gateway Greenlight over the past 7 years. I really, at this point, don't see any return on investment. I know on your agenda tonight, there's some more Gateway Greenlight enhancements. The one with emergency vehicles to get it, the intersection to turn green, to move those emergency vehicles through that intersection, I'm for. But I'd like to see a presentation made by our Transportation Department to the County Road Board, giving us real data that we can really digest, read, and understand Gateway Greenlight. It's a lot of money. We're all taxpayers at the federal, state, and county levels. And when we're spending over $10 million on this project, I want to see real return on investment. So I would encourage you as board members to ask the Director of Transportation if she could be kind enough to make some type of presentation, because there's a full-time traffic engineer or somebody who's monitoring traffic 5 days a week here in the County Administration Building. The next thing, when they make the presentations, I want to see projects that make real sense for future generations and to make our county a better place. More skin in the game. Some of the municipalities only pay 4%. I'd like to see something more reasonable of the municipalities to step up to the plate and put up more money that's reasonable to have skin in the game. We want to get the best bang for our half-cent tax dollars, which brings in roughly about $25 million annually. It's going to be up this year because our economy has been up even during COVID, and we haven't really suffered any ramifications. We want projects that are going to make a true impact on our communities, that are going to reduce commute time, reduce traffic, better sight distances, safety enhancements, reduction in accidents. I think those need to be the key focus. I want to make sure that we're looking towards the future with bikeable lanes, sidewalk accessibility for all citizens. And when I mean all citizens, citizens with disabilities. Just because somebody can't see or can't hear, they should have the same access to public roadways and sidewalks that you and I do. So I want to make sure that the American with Disabilities Act is fully complied with. Now, the city that I live in, my hometown, O'Fallon, it's been lacking. Some of the projects they bring forward to you, and I don't know what, I'm coming with an open mind today, and I think they're on in May. But I want to make sure that these projects make sense and that O'Fallon contributes a bigger part of the pie in the equation. A couple things to think about here. The $100 million that's going to be needed from East West Gateway, Congress, Department of Transportation, and our county sales tax is the curve in Wentzville. That's going to take a minimum of $100 million to fix. Missouri Highway N corridor needs to be fixed. MoDOT can't take on any additional projects, so we're going to have to step up to the plate because that's where every week, 3 to 5 families are moving to the Highway N corridor, putting more traffic onto our county roads. Dave Hochul Parkway is going to be another endeavor that I want to see that's finished properly and at budget or under budget. And finally, the unincorporated county road services. They're starting to dilapidate and fall apart. And I also want to see a capital improvement project in our unincorporated neighborhood subdivisions where they were built 25, 30 years ago, and now they're crumbling, and they end up to be a 1 on the score of 10 from the county consortium of rating the street systems, which everybody's a member of. So we really need to plan with capital improvements for our unincorporated neighborhoods of how we're going to replace those slabs, how that we're going to replace those falling apart infrastructure of the sidewalks, the curbs, the ramps, the ditches. And of course, there's other needs that are ever evolving that we need to have an ample reserve to take up those economic development type programs and those special projects that come up during the year. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I appreciate you hearing me out, and I hope that we plan for the future to do the right thing for our 430,000 residents. Thank you.
Where did you come up with your 4% figure?
For example, in the city of Dardenne, Prairie, on their traffic light, I know it said that their contribution was 4%. I know the city of O'Fallon and Lake St. Louis, looking through some of the projects this year and last year, it shows up at 4%. That's what their cost share is.
It's 80% CMAC, and so their 80/20 of the remaining is 4%.
So they're splitting 80/20 with us.
Correct. And the municipality's paying 4%. I think
And we're
that
paying 16. And we're paying 16.
Correct.
It's, you're acting like they're only putting a 4% match in. We're getting 80% of other dollars. We're splitting 80/20 on that, which turns out to be 4% of the project, but then we're only putting 16% in. It does, we don't do anything at 4%. That's all there, I mean, probably Augusta, somebody like that may actually be allowed to put in 0 because they're so small, but it would be a very small project. But almost everybody's 20%. There may be still few that we'd entertain 10%. And I get it, but he's intimating that we're doing 4%. Yeah, the total cost, that's a split, so.
like on the Sonern project, that was, I'm not sure, I think it was originally not approved by the board to recommend to the county council, and then it was recommended. And I'm not sure what part it's in. Maybe it still is denial, but I believe that project also was 4%. And it's a secondary road. It's not a primary major thoroughfare.
I just, I can tell you right now, we don't do things, if it doesn't get presented to us at 4%, and we don't do them at 4%. That's all there is to it. Now, again, if it's an 80/20 split, and their portion is 4%, then ours is 16. We'd love to spend 16% on anything to get that dollars, or 16 cents on for a dollar's worth of road. But that's not 4% of the total project cost.
Okay, maybe if you could, maybe after the meeting, if you could explain a little bit better, or put it on paper so I can understand it better. I'm just saying that I think the municipality should have more skin in the
They're
game.
not right.
I just believe that the municipality should have more skin in the game. That's the bottom line.
And again, we make sure that happens on, that's the way we work. I mean, we're gonna leverage our dollars, they're gonna leverage theirs.
Okay,
But the lowest, other than, like I said, a very, very small municipality is 10, but almost everybody's up to 20 by now.
Yeah.
okay.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Are there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. At this time, we'll look at the 2022-2024 TIP applications from some of the municipalities, and we'll start with the city of Dardenne Prairie.
Hello, my name is Jacob Betcher. I'm with the St. Charles County Roads and Traffic, here today presenting on behalf of the city of Dardenne Prairie. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Thank you all for your time today. Forgive me if I'm a bit shaky. I haven't done this in at least 14 months. So. The project application I'm presenting to you is the Dardenne Prairie Fiber Interconnect 2 Traffic Signals Project. This project is located in the city of Dardenne Prairie. The existing conditions, we currently utilize 2.4 gigahertz radio, broad spectrum radio communications, and some cellular modems. The scope is to install a single mode fiber optic cable around the major collector roadways in Dardenne Prairie to their signalized intersections. Some of the performances that we can achieve with this are high-speed communications, allowing for real-time monitoring of traffic, incident response, enhanced operations contributing to proactive traffic management, and safer and more efficient travel. This is an aerial map of the proposed project area. If you can see here in the red is the proposed and future installation of the fiber optic cable. Creates a ring from Dardenne Prairie City Hall, the blue dot there, up Hanley Road, down Feisey, back down Technology, and then ultimately Town Square Avenue and back to City Hall. Some of the benefits of fiber optic cable are your connection quality. You have unmatched signal strength, shooting through the glass light tubes over very large distances. You've got high resistance to electrical interference. All that contributes to low communication losses, so you have high reliability in your communications. Unmatched speeds. With fiber optic cable, we're capable of achieving up to 100 gigabits per second of data transmission. The existing wireless communication system is only capable of 1 gigabit per second. It's very imperative to have that high data transmission when considering high-resolution data from the advanced traffic controllers that we'd like to install in this corridor, as well as future county projects like the emergency vehicle preemption, making sure we have low latency in the system. Security. Breaches in fiber optic local area networks or wide area networks are instantly detectable, either by a breakage or infiltration, whereas broad spectrum radio signals can be intercepted without anyone knowing. Scalability. Available strands of fiber optic cable in the ground provides a backbone for future growth and infrastructure expansion within the city. It's much easier to splice into a fiber cable than to go out and hang a bunch of radios, do line of sight surveys and all of that. And your life cycle cost. It's extremely low maintenance once it's in the ground. It's corrosion resistant. It's housed in high density polyethylene plastic tubing, so it's not likely anyone's going to get to it and break it unless they dig without permit. And it's got a very long life, usable life. We're talking 25, 30 years or more versus a radio that might only get 5 to 7. Some of the measurable, so the impacts to traffic, enhanced communications, improve operations of the county deployed intelligent transportation systems. This includes their advanced traffic management system, their signal phase and timing messaging system, and the coming emergency vehicle preemption system. Each of these technologies rely on live data to operate at optimal efficiency levels. The existing communications' low signal strength and poor reliability negatively impact the effectiveness of the county's investments. Some of the measurable outcomes, so the proactive traffic management, real-time monitoring and management programs such as Gateway Green Light can contribute to between 1% and 5% reductions in delays at signalized intersections, conservatively speaking. And that's the county's full-time employed personnel doing that work actively versus going out and hiring a consultant at several thousands of dollars per location to optimize the timing. The emergency response, successful EVP deployments can reduce delays to emergency vehicles by 25 to 45 seconds per intersection, and it's also been shown to cut the rate of crashes with emergency vehicles by more than 50%. As we know, the response time to calls is critical in life-saving matters, so it's very important that we have good, reliable communications with that system. Lastly, the county has a third party that will sell signal phase and timing data to either OEMs or individual app users. These applications, either in the car or mobile phone, can save drivers between 2% and 7% on energy use with eco approach and departure to signalized intersections. So some of the estimated fuel savings, this was provided by a consultant to St. Charles County on Gateway Green Light Phase 6 for the Route N Town Square Avenue corridor in Dardenne Prairie. Some of the annualized benefits for this corridor with around 9,500 vehicles per day and fuel consumption of around 768 gallons per day. We're saving around $22,100 annually in fuel costs by continuing to make these improvements. This also reduced greenhouse gas emissions by about 3.2 tons. So your volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, and nitrous oxide removal from the air from doing these signal optimizations and timings has saved the county a little bit, or the Dardenne Prairie residents a little bit of money in greenhouse gas emissions. Here is the proposed funding split. So for 2022, the design services, the county would match $5,028 to the city's $1,257, with $25,138 coming from federal, for a total of $31,423. The construction phase, we're seeking county match of $62,228.80. City putting forth $15,557.20. And the East-West Gateway Government's CMAQ funding, providing $311,144 for that total of $388,930. Total project breakdown below, you see the county contributes $67,256, city $16,814. Federal dollars are $336,282, with the total project at $420,353.
Mr. Dinoff, is this what you're talking about, that type of slide?
Yeah.
So you don't think it's a good idea to spend $67,000 to do a $400,000 project here?
I just think if we lower the county's percentage, then we can do more projects countywide, and municipalities would have more skin in the game if you went to 5% or 7.5%.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Just a works cited page if anyone wants to check my math, follow up with anything. And again, thank you all for your time. Thank you for this opportunity. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.
It says requested. Have those been approved already?
They have not. The meeting is in the beginning of May, so we'll have those for the next meeting.
Okay.
So applied for.
They are-
Correct.
They're going for the funds.
We don't know if they're going to get it or not.
Not yet secured. We'll find out in May.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions? Thanks, did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go on to the city of Flint Hill.
Good evening, Road Board. My name is Kirk Daniels with Cochran Engineering. We're the acting city engineer for Flint Hill. So appreciate your time tonight. Make it pretty short and sweet because the project's not that long, so it makes it kind of easy. So what we're calling here is Phase 1 of Highway P improvements. So we can show you here a little bit where the project limits are. It's, if I turn my pointer on, down here is the start of the project, and then we end just to the east of St. Theodore Church. The overall project goes from Highway P all the way up to Mexico Road, but at this point we're wanting to do just Phase 1 of this project, so that's what we're presenting today. It's approximately 600 feet. The existing pavement on this has a Pacer rate of 7.5, which is actually a fairly good Pacer rate, so the existing pavement's pretty good. The problems we have on this is, number one, no sidewalks, there's no parking, there's some gravel parking on the side of the roads. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the Grotto Grill. It's bringing a tremendous amount of traffic to Flint Hill, which we're excited about, they're excited about. There's a new Bear's Tavern, which is right up here. It's open, starting to draw, and of course, we've had Menino's Market for quite some time. So the problem is we have, as I said, no sidewalks, existing corridor up in this area. You can see we have highly eroded ditches down in this area also. There's no storm sewers, nothing like that. There's no pedestrian pathways or such. A little bit about the project. I'll give you just a quick overview. What we're looking at doing is putting in some parallel parking in this area. It's a handicap parking. We would be putting new sidewalks on both the north and south side. One of the existing commercial owners has agreed to give us easement for sidewalk that just to the south of here is the American Legion Hall, and they've agreed to give us access to sidewalks that in the higher traffic flow times, hoping in the summer and the spring that they'll be able to park there and come up through a sidewalk. There's also a cemetery back there they want to get access to. But this plan would show majority of the storm sewers would go on the south side to discharge down there and would clean up a lot of the areas that are highly erodible at this time. A little bit of the ideas of what Flint Hill's looking at. I mean, they want to encourage the economic growth by increasing accessibility, of course, as we all know. Pedestrian travel, as I've said, is not, there's nothing. There really is nothing at this time. From what I understand, Flint Hill said they've never presented to the road board, so they're very eager for their first time. But just some renderings of what they had, what they would project it to look like. This is the old Grotto Grill as it stands today. So these are just some of the ideas they're looking at. This is kind of the funding that we've proposed. We have made application to East West Gateway and we'll find out in May on that. You can see the cost shares over here from the county and also Flint Hill. Just a projection of the construction schedule. If we're successful in this project, it'd start in October, and Flint Hill would be excited to have something open somewhere in '24. With that, like as I said, pretty simple. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
What's the overall budget of the total project?
367, 836.
No.
So
Not just phase one. How many phases are you envisioning? And
we would envision, that's a loaded question. I don't want to speak for the alderman.
it's been discussed though, I bet.
It has been discussed, absolutely. I'm going to make a educated guess, and let's leave it as a guess, and I'm trying to think of, I'm stalling a little bit because I can't remember the overall cost. I want to say we looked at 3 phases is what we've kicked the idea around. This would be phase 1. Phase 2 would potentially go down to Highway P. The biggest problem is storm sewers. And to be honest, off the top of my head, I don't remember that overall cost. So I apologize for that.
But this would give you a little business district or a little.
It would give, that's
retail
what they
district.
want. I mean, they really want the business district. I mean, things are growing, not as fast as a lot of the other cities. Fallon, Wentzville, I mean, all those, we can't grow that fast. And they want controllable growth. So, I mean, when you look at Main Street, there's a lot of things that can happen. There's actually one gentleman from Flint Hill that has invested in a lot of buildings. He actually is the one that owns the building for Grotto Grill. Been at presentations with him, and he is definitely looking at investing more in Flint Hill to make it a nice downtown. And it's hard to say downtown because it's on a hill, so I don't know if we call it uptown or what, but downtown just doesn't seem right to me, so everything's elevation. So, no, there's a lot of good things they want to happen there. They're excited for this project, and from what I've talked to the alderman, it's been a lot of years of a thought process, just there's not been much action, so we're trying to help them make some action.
Great project. I'm excited about it. We had Grotto Grill last night. We live up there. We love it.
It's a great spot. Like the plan is awesome. It makes sense because you got to park on the road there to get your carry out, and it sucks because cars are flying through there. You have nowhere to park. Like,
I wish I could say it that way.
So you invited us out for a field trip?
let's go. Field trip at the road board meeting.
Margarita ice cream, is it good or what? I don't even like margaritas.
But no, it's a good project. I'm excited about it. I think with the federal money, it's a good project.
Let's hope for the federal money.
Let's hope for the federal money.
Yes,
right?
that's what we gotta hope for, so that's the big thing.
Okay. Any other questions? Good presentation. This is how we do it, though, is especially when you get those federal dollars, it makes us hard to say no.
Well, exactly, we're just hoping for the federal dollars. That's
Yep,
the- that's
good.
the
Good luck.
goal. So, thank you.
Yep, thank you. City of Lake St. Louis?
Good afternoon. I feel for Jacob. This is my first time in front of a group of people in 14 months, too. Let me see.
You'll be fine.
I can figure out how to make this work. Oh, I turned it off. There we go. Okay, City of Lake St. Louis has, by the way, I'm Derek Castle. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Lake St. Louis. The city's got 3 projects we want to present this afternoon. The first is our Technology Drive Improvements Project. This project is essentially an outer road of I-64 between Lake St. Louis Boulevard and Technology Loop Drive. That's between 364 Highway N and the Lake St. Louis Boulevard interchange. In your packets, you'll see a concept plan for the project. The project begins at Lake St. Louis Boulevard with a mill and overlay that ends to the east of Technology Loop Drive and a complete pavement replacement at the intersection of the main entrance to the meadows. I was just talking to Jacob before I came up here. I wasn't aware, I probably wasn't paying attention at the GGL meetings well enough. I wasn't aware the county was doing that or proposing that fiber optic loop that's reasonably close to here. So I may try and talk to Amanda about adding fiber optic into this project. There still would be a gap in between, but I think we can fill that in the future. Besides the pavement improvements, we have several sidewalk replacement sections that will be required for ADA compliance as part of our federal aid grant. And we are also looking at an extension of the existing sidewalk to the west to Technology Loop to connect into the existing sidewalk network. You can see on the far east side of the project is Green Tree Elementary School. All of these homes right around here have a sidewalk that they can access down to this point. We want to give them an opportunity to get to the Meadows Shopping District. Also, there are a number of apartments I'll talk about in a minute. All of those people will be able to access this sidewalk back to Green Tree Elementary, and their children would go to that school. So the Meadows Lifestyle Center is a 350,000 square foot commercial center. Like many commercial areas these days, it is not as fully leased out as we'd like to see it. It's not doing that poorly, but it could certainly do better. Part of the strategy there is we're trying to bring a little bit more activity into the area by allowing apartments to be built in the area. Additionally, next to the Meadows is NISC, which is a 600 employee corporation. They also have room to double their site footprint on that site. So they could substantially increase their number of employees. Existing, just constructed, is a 220 unit apartment complex within the footprint of the Meadows. Approved Monday night by our Board of Aldermen is another 100, it was actually 156 units across the street, across Tech Drive from the Meadows. And we've just started talking to a developer about another 120 apartments here to the east of the Meadows site. As I said, we're trying to get more activity going in the Meadows. We'd like to see more entertainment opportunities, more restaurants and things like that. With all these apartments with 500 additional units within walking distance of the Meadows, we see that as an opportunity for, kind of have that base level support, weekday support for some of these kinds of things to bridge the gap between their busy times on the weekends. Also, the city is in talks with the owners of the Meadows to construct a city park within the Meadows. So again, it's more activity, more things that are vehicular and pedestrian focused in this area. So we really view pedestrian access as just as important as vehicular access to this area to support that economic growth. So the purposes of this project, we want to provide a functional facility for vehicles to support over 10,000 cars a day on Technology Drive. And that's during COVID. As people get back to normal commuting, we expect that number to go up. 10,000 cars a day don't come from Lake St. Louis. This is a regional facility. It is providing a bypass for I-64. When I-64 gets congested, people can take Technology Drive all the way from Weldon Spring all the way up to Lake St. Louis Boulevard. So people are bypassing that congestion on this road. So, it is not only important for the viability of the Meadows commercial site, it's important for the region's transportation that this road be in decent condition. We want to balance that good vehicular facility with pedestrian mobility. And we want to be able to combine both to drive economic activity. Our funding plan is, this project's about $2 million. We were asking for a 50-50 split from the county, so a little more skin in the game from the city. So it'll be almost 13% from the city. And before I move on, were there any questions about that project?
Other than sidewalks, is there any new road construction or is it maintenance?
Oh, it's pavement replacement. I don't think there will be any additional lanes.
So this is a maintenance project essentially then?
And sidewalk extensions, and potentially fiber optic expansion.
Under specific roadway items, you got stamped concrete?
That there is stamped concrete existing, so we're planning to replace that. But that is part of the reason why we're asking for less than an 80-20 split from the county, is that while the stamped concrete does cost a little bit more, it's not substantially more. And we also do recognize that this project has more of a maintenance focus than the road board normally would like to see. So we're hoping that we can make that more palatable by offering a 50-50 split instead of 80-20. In addition to that, on the far east end, where that sidewalk extension is slated to go, crosses unincorporated county. So by getting county road board money, even a small amount of county road board money, that will allow us a little bit easier process for condemnation should that come into play on those properties. Our second project is citywide signal upgrades. We have 5 signals throughout the city that we would like to improve. The primary driver and first reason we looked at these signal improvements are to provide and convert to flashing yellow lefts. This will reduce vehicular delays and improve safety. Jacob helped us with the application to the feds for CMAQ on this and provided some calculations for greenhouse gas and delay emissions reductions that I think are in your application. Along with that, we plan to upgrade the controllers and detection on these signals, provide better operation of the intersections and improved high-resolution data collection, which can be used to do better timing plans and do other things like that down the road to help us further improve our operations. This is a relatively inexpensive project. It's about a little less than $350,000 total cost, and we are asking for an 80-20 split of the non-federal portion. So $55,000 from the county. Any questions on that one? The final project is a study of Lake St. Louis Boulevard south of I-64. This is between Highway N and I-64. Lake St. Louis Boulevard. This is the interchange that is between the 364 interchange and I-70-64 major system interchange. The study will help to confirm our assumptions about the improvements that are necessary and appropriate for the corridor. Some of those have been reflected in the application. We anticipate upgrading the road from a 2-lane facility with shoulders to a 3-lane facility with curb and gutter and sidewalks and closed drainage. likely preserving right-of-way and setting that roadway up to be expanded to 5 lanes in the future if the study shows that's warranted. We want to confirm signal locations at Hawk Ridge Circle and Orf Road. We may also need a signal at Hawk Ridge Trail. If we look at the county's thoroughfare plan, we'll see proposed and existing improvements that have recently been constructed with road board money to the south. So this is the area that we'll be looking at. South of Highway N, O'Fallon has projects to connect Lake St. Louis Boulevard through to DD, and then there's also some existing county projects that have been completed there. I think everybody here is familiar with Highway N and all the efforts that we've all made there. There's a lot of traffic on Highway N. It's well over capacity. Lake St. Louis Boulevard is already serving as a reliever for people to bypass some of that congestion. Doesn't get you very far, but people are choosing to take Lake St. Louis Boulevard to avoid some of that congestion over near the shops at Hawk Ridge and at the 364 interchange. We anticipate that will continue to be the case even after improvements are made on Highway N, especially since the Highway N improvements really don't start until right about here, right at Summers. So all of this will remain in place, and that where we have that congestion today will really be unchanged with what we're planning for Highway N. So this study will provide a basis for us to preserve the corridor when we have developers come in. That's one good reason to be doing this planning effort now. It will also provide us an accurate scope and budget so that we can apply next year for county road board money, for federal highway money, and really know what we're trying to do, have a good budget that allows us to lock in our responsibilities. I think that's an important thing to consider. That is probably the key place where cities have skin in the game when they have one of these 4% projects, is when they go over budget, we're on the hook for 100% of the cost overruns. So we want to establish the facility type, identify signal needs, identify utility conflicts. Utility conflicts can be tremendously expensive. And quantify right-of-way need. We need to know all these things before we set one of these budgets and lock ourselves in. So that's the purpose of our application. Total, we budget about $75,000 for the study, and we're asking the county to help us with $60,000. Are there any questions?
So are you proposing a traffic signal at Orf Road?
I anticipate that will be one of the locations that the study shows we need one. I did signal warrants on that about 6 months ago, and it was not that far from needing signal warrants then. That was right at the height of COVID with all the reduced vehicle volume. So by the time we get to construction here, I expect that we will need a signal at Orf Road. And I expect we will need a signal at one of the Hawk Ridge Circle intersections, unless we decide to reconfigure Hawk Ridge Circle and connect Fremont out to Lake St. Louis Boulevard to the north of Hawk Ridge Circle and connect Hawk Ridge Circle into Fremont, which was part of a planning effort the city did some years ago. We actually acquired a piece of property on that corridor so we could preserve the corridor. And we did apply for county road board funding to construct that, but we were not successful. So we may still want to follow through with that corridor. If this study shows that that's the right thing to do, I expect we'll do that. So we'll have at least 2 signals, if not 3, over the next 5 to 10 years, I expect.
It just seems really close to your other signal there at Highway N.
It's about 1,800 feet, which is in the close. It's a little close, but it's functional. I don't really know what else we do, because, there's nowhere else for those vehicles to go.
Well, there's a stop sign there right now.
There is, but the queues are starting to develop. My office is right here, and so I see that every afternoon. The queues are about 20 cars deep today.
What about turn lanes?
We would need turn lanes. I anticipate we do turn lanes first. If we don't have signal warrants, what we would do with the project, so the study that we're asking for would help us to determine what we actually need and what would actually work. So your concern would be one of the things that we would address with the study. I think that we would, at a minimum, set the roadway up for a signal. We would put those turn lanes in, use stop signs, look at traffic projections. If we don't meet warrants, we leave it as stop signs. If the models show that we need a signal because we can't push all the cars through, then we'll have to add the signals in the future. But we want to set ourselves up for that success down the road. Because as you can see, there's a lot of open land here. And this is currently owned, this is currently cemetery, and a lot of this is owned by the Catholic Church, but they have expressed interest in selling that property and developing it. So we're going to have a lot more traffic in this area. We have 10,000 cars a day now on Lake St. Louis Boulevard, and what, 25,000, 22,000 on Highway N? Somewhere in that area. We anticipate over 30,000. So there's a lot of cars.
Thank you.
And I guess also we anticipate some of these subdivisions may be cut off from left turns on Highway N. So there will need to be a way, and this street right through here, which our office is off of, is an industrial park. We anticipate left turns will be cut off for them with the Highway N improvements. So we're going to need a way for trucks and other things to come up and turn on Orf to access these properties that now are accessed off of Highway N.
Is the study a necessary evil? We kind of weaved in and out of, this road's gonna need to be improved. You laid out a lot of the issues, problems, all that. I mean,
we know intuitively what we think we want to do. But exactly, how many square feet of right-of-way do we need? Where do we have utility conflicts? We can go out and identify the utilities, but we don't necessarily know if they're in conflict. So we don't want to add budget. We don't want to add $1 million of budget for utility relocations into our budget if we don't need them, and then have that prevent us from being successful with our grant applications. But if we do need them, we don't want to leave them out.
But the study will identify all that.
So that's the purpose of the study,
right,
is to lock that in. So we come to you with the right request, because we don't want to come back to you and say, well, we didn't know this was here. We would like you to give us more money, because that hasn't been very successful in the past for people.
Well played.
So,
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Perfect, thanks.
thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. St. Charles County Highway Department.
Good afternoon. Chris Bostic, Engineering Manager with St. Charles County Highway Department. And I'm going to have 5 projects for you today.
You're not nervous, are you, Chris?
Just kidding. I've done this a few times, maybe not recently, but we can work our way through it. I've got a couple different, we'll call them categories of projects for you here. We got 2 bridge replacements, and we got 3 road improvement, more like shoulder widening type projects. So there will be almost a little bit of repetition, so you may hear me say the same thing a few times here, but we'll start off with the 2 bridge projects first. The first of which being Augusta Bottom Road Bridge. These are both going to be bridge replacements. Augusta Bottom Road is sort of a cut through down the far southwestern corner of the county, not very far from Washington. So this particular bridge is about a half-mile east of MK Road, and we're talking here about a project that would be maybe 500 feet in length. Probably just install a new bridge next to the one immediately to the south, so we're not necessarily saying we keep the road open, we probably close the road, but all those sorts of things are determined as the plans develop. Basically, the reason we're doing this bridge project and the other bridge project to follow is that the county is actually in a position that hardly any other county in the state is, and that is we have very, very few deficient bridges. So some other counties may have dozens, if not 100 or more, and at this point we have maybe 5. So anytime a bridge comes on the list as being deficient, which is when it's rated less than 50%, we immediately apply for funding and get those replaced. So this one here just dropped below 50, it's at 46.2, so that is considered structurally deficient, and it does have a load rating, a posted load rating on it. And Augusta Bottom Road is considered a minor rural collector, and as you can see, it's a low traffic volume road, generally speaking. Our last count was 359 vehicles. So this will give you a couple quick pictures here of what it looks like. You got farm field to the left, which is the bottoms of the Missouri River, and coming off the bluff on the right side. Picture just underneath the bridge. There's a whole bridge report they've done that talks about what the real issues are with it. Typically rusting, too much asphalt, so too much dead load on top of the bridge, items like that. So what we would replace it with in this case is likely a similar structure, similar span. We also do a lot of box culverts on these types of bridges because it's a nice, relatively cheap, easy fix. So the existing bridge out there now is 28 feet in width from barrier wall to barrier wall, and we wouldn't widen this one significantly. It would just go to from 28, roughly a 28 to a 30-foot wide bridge structure. The cost on this one that we're looking at is $730,000 in total. We have applied for federal funding on this one. We have found that our bridge replacements are almost always funded. I can't even think of one that hasn't been funded by the feds in recent history. So what we're looking at here is we typically like to handle the design and right away with the local funds. It's a little bit easier and a little bit quicker to get through that and then use the federal funding towards construction. So this percentage here breaks down 68.5%, other being federal, and then 31.5% from the road board. So we're asking for $230,000 on this project. Okay, and the next one is going to look fairly similar to that, only it's a slightly bigger bridge. This one's on Femme Osage Creek Road. It's a little bit north of Augusta Bottom, also in kind of the southwestern part of the county, just not in that far corner. This one is 1/10 of a mile east of Becker-Jorling Road. Another one where we probably just put a slight shift into the existing pavement to build the bridge alongside what's there now. This one rated similarly but slightly lower at 44.8%. And the actual load posting is lower than the other one was. The previous one was 53 tons. This one's already down to 40 tons. Femme Osage Creek Road here is considered a local road, and it has a similar, if slightly lower, ADT of 303 vehicles a day. So I've got more pictures here. It's just going to end up being a slightly longer bridge. It's built in an odd style that's sort of like a glorified box culvert. So it's a 3-cell culvert, if you will, more so than a bridge, but it's still considered a bridge because of the length. So on this one, we're looking at the exact same thing as the other one. It may need to be a multi-span bridge if we go back with a conventional bridge structure. It'll certainly be a multi-cell box culvert if we were to choose basically the least expensive option of the two. So again, talking the same width on this one. It's roughly about 28 feet of clear width between the barrier now and the new bridge would be at least 30 feet wide. And so our costs are just going to be slightly higher on this one for construction. But just because we're using round numbers in our federal funding request, it's actually be slightly higher percentage on the federal funds. Instead of 69.5, this is 72.4. But we're in the same neighborhood, asking for $210,000 for this project.
Chris,
Yes.
what kind of lifespan would this bridge have if we did replace it?
That's a good question. And it's hard to say. I'd have to look at the bridge report and see what the actual issues were. We have had bridges that drop down 30% and below, so I mean, it certainly has a few more years to go. How many, I don't know that I could say.
Both rated structural defects.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. They have what they call a functionally obsolete bridge, which is most of what our bridges are, which primarily means they're too narrow, but then structural deficiencies are the ones that really get us interested in replacing them quickly. All right. Without any other questions on the bridge projects, I'll move on to our road projects. Got 3 of them for you, as I mentioned before. We'll start with Hepperman Road Phase 2. So we previously had a federally funded project on Hepperman Road to the north. That would be from Golf Club Drive from north up to basically the outer road, south outer road, well, not quite that far, up to Interstate Drive in the Wentzville area. So this is continuation of Hepperman Road south to Highway End. And this project is shorter than the previous Hepperman project. This one's 0.62 miles in length. And like Hepperman was before, and most of our other more rural roads, it's a narrow 2-lane road with no shoulders, drop-offs, obviously open ditches, that sort of thing. The pavement rating out here is a 6 out of 10, and the ADT is increasing. Vehicles per day is 1,163. So what we're going to look at for improvements on this project is primarily a shoulder widening and then an overlay. So instead of on the part of Hepperman Road to the north, we've done a total reconstruction, partly because there were a significant number of curves and hills, and while this is a bit of a curvy road, it's certainly nothing like the section to the north was when it was improved. So we're going to, again, the plan would be to add shoulders and push the ditches farther out, improve the slopes, get a lot of the vegetation away from the edge of the roadway, clean up the sight lines, that sort of project. So what it would be is going from basically 2 11-foot lanes to 2 12-foot more standard lanes, and then adding a 4-foot shoulder on each side. So pavement width is going to go from 22 feet basically out to 32 feet. So cost on a project like this, again, it's grading work, it's earthwork, there's widening, there's full depth shoulders, an overlay of the pavement. I mean, a typical project like that might be more like $3 million, so this is going to be about $1.7 million project is the estimate for design right away, some utility work and construction. So we have, on all of these projects, you'll see we have applied for federal funding, and we'll see how that works out. Having the lower pavement rating does work in our favor a little bit because they'll consider it a preservation project and it'll score fairly well on that. So where we're at is $800,000 federal, hopefully, and then $900,000 local match. Okay.
This would match the rest of Hepperman?
This would complete the rest of Hepperman match. It would match the, same width, the 4-foot shoulders, the 12-foot lanes, exactly. Yes.
So this is a cut through to Wentzville?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly is. Okay, next project for you is up in the more northern part of the county off Highway P. This would be Josephville Road. So it starts from Route P and would go south to Kirsting Road. It's a project 1.22 miles in length. So again, same exact thing, narrow 2-lane roadway, no shoulders, ditches, drop-offs. We do have obviously a very sharp curve there in the middle. So we are planning a little more expense on this project, partly because of the length. It's nearly twice as long as Hepperman, but also be looking at a reconstruction in the area of that basically 90-degree turn. So pavement also out here rated rather poorly, 4.5 out of 10. So this one scores preservation even better than the Hepperman project. And the ADT was higher, a little higher than I expected. We're almost up to 1,000 vehicles per day now. So that's just a picture, I mean, similar to Hepperman, and then you got vegetation close to the road, narrow lanes, but then of course you also have the 90-degree turn in there. So typical section is just going to be a carbon copy. Everything we have pretty much on these rural roads is 11-foot lanes, so we'll go to 12-foot lanes and 4-foot shoulders again. So cost on this one is, again, a lot of it's an overlay. There'll just be that small section in the middle where we rebuild the curve. It's a longer project, so we're $2.23 million with a $1 million federal request, so the local amount we'd be asking for is $1.23 million. Okay, and I have one final project for you here. Again, sort of the same thing, West Meyer Road. This would be what I would consider the last piece of West Meyer Road. This is all the way out at the west end. So from Route W and then working our way back to Donkey Road. And this is, I think, where they have the county fair out there is just off the edge of the page. So it doesn't quite take us that far. Now, Wentzville's obviously significantly widened and continually improving West Meyer Road as they progress to the west, but this is pretty far out, even beyond where they have gotten to at this point. But it seems like at this point it's the most rural and will probably stay the most rural of the sections of West Meyer for the foreseeable future. So project 1.2 miles in length, and again it's the same thing, narrow road, open ditches, trees crowding the roadway. There is a bit of a reverse curve in the middle that we'll have to look at for some reconstruction there, and the pavement out here actually rated very poorly. It's a 3.1 out of 10, so it was not good at all. And a pretty good ADT, 2,162 vehicles a day. Again, it's going to look a lot like all the others. It helps that this one is flat for the most part, so there's not a lot of vertical curve correction. We just have that one reverse curve in the middle that we'll look at smoothing out as part of the project. It'll just be a big help to get the shoulders and the ditches pushed out and get vegetation off the road, basically. So exact same typical section as the others. 12-foot lanes, 4-foot shoulders. And cost-wise on this one, just because of the length, and we're not entirely sure what's going to happen with the reverse curves, there's a little bit of extra pavement repair or rebuild in there, if you will. So it's $2.45 million, again $1 million federal, so we'll be looking at $1.45 million from the road board. And those are our projects for this year.
Questions?
Yeah. Do you have to get right away when you expand?
Yes, we would, yes. Most of these roads, and they vary, these old county roads are either 30 or 40 feet wide, and typically on a project like this, we'd go to 50. If we were gonna go with what was the old 3-lane road and sidewalk and whatnot, that's usually a 60-foot right-of-way, we'd probably just go to 50 feet on this one.
So you'll have to acquire right away.
Mm-hmm. Most likely both sides of the road.
Do you go for, on both sides, you gotta get right away on both sides, right?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we'd look and see if it makes more sense as you're rebuilding a road, you shift it a little bit one way or another, because the house is on one side, maybe a lot farther away, but in this case, since we're doing primarily the overlay and shoulder, yeah, it's just gonna be,
Okay.
I'd say it's a high probability, right, it'll just be a strip of right of way from both sides of the road.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amanda, I guess, do you want to look at amendment, item number 6, the amendment to Wentzville Parkway South Phase 2?
Yep, and I guess I'll walk up to the podium since I have slides. I'd rather just sit here, but. All right, and Susan is on the phone if we need her, so I'll give it a go. I did a slide. Okay, so Wentzville Parkway South Phase 2, they did a 2018 application that assumed right-of-way donation. Since then, that has changed. So they are increasing their project cost from $762,000 to $962,000, and I handed everybody a financial sheet. It's not up there. So basically, they asked for $25,000 for right-of-way initially, and they need $100,000 more. And then they're also adding some funds for, let's see, she has $25,000 to account for material costs. The cost of concrete has gone up, so they just figured since they're asking anyway, they'd go ahead and put that in there. And $50,000 for contingency, just because they're still kind of unsure about what's going to happen here. So she's asking for, again, $200,000 project increase.
our amount goes up from 326,136 to 420,000. The city will put in some additional funds, getting them to 280, and the developer is also putting in some additional funds, putting theirs to 262,000.
Is that strictly the value of the right-of-way?
No, the right-of-way, so the right-of-way increase is at the bottom. It was, they had 25,000 before, and now they're estimating 125,000.
But the developer was providing the right-of-way on that one.
And that's what happened. They're not anymore, is my understanding. And Susan, do you want to jump in on anything? You're kind of cutting in and out, but we'll do our best.
There are 4 right-of-ways, and 2 of them have agreed to donate. The other 2 we've been unsuccessful, wiring donation. The other 2.
Those other 2 are not developers?
The other 2 parcels are associated with the development. They are adjacent parcel west development.
They are not associated with the development. Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. I thought so. Sorry, you're cutting in and out, so we got R. Okay.
Wouldn't that have been like agreed to when everything was submitted? Are like the right-of-way donations not?
So I think, well, I could let her answer, but I think they had worked with the developer and just kind of talked to the others. And I mean, when you're that early on, not necessarily. I don't, most people won't put something in writing until you're right down to it, I think. So I can see that happening. So that's, so that's what they have. I talked earlier with somebody about inflation, and we probably will need to have a further discussion once we get into our workshop meetings, but what we're hearing is that the cost of materials, concrete, just probably everything is way up. Bids are coming in much higher than expected. Lake St. Louis had one for their roundabout. I think Derek said they're paying $600,000 over what the city is. I think the estimate came in $900,000 over what they were anticipating. So we could have a lot of cities kind of trying to work that out, and we probably want to kind of try to figure something out for this year's up.
Maximum. So that's going to be superseded on pretty much every project then.
Well, we need to not necessarily contingency. Inflation is because contingency is more with the unexpected items, like Derek said in his presentation about wanting a study. You can either get a study and kind of know what you're getting into, or you can, just wing it and then put in some contingency and hope for the best. So it's done differently depending on the project. But I think we really want to look at that inflation number and try to figure out if there's some way we can help with construction costs just exploding and how we want to deal with that.
But with budgeting, I would get out to all of the sponsors. They should be communicating that so we could build that in financially.
Yeah.
Not saying we're going to authorize it, not saying we're going to, but I mean, if they've got examples like that, multiple, and there's a lot of, we have to have some idea, so we need to put back $3 million, $5 million, whatever the case is. So they don't communicate, we build something in, they come back much later than that, you may be waiting a year or two to get either reimbursed and or.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
But we did enjoy a lot of years of cost savings. I mean, it goes both ways. This will be the ugly side of it, really. But a lot of people are coming in $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 less than budget because of the recession and a lot of other things, and people got very hungry with their bids. But this will be the opposite side of that. So.
Correct.
Yeah. But I would hope they would communicate that with you. Like I said, for your planning and your budgeting, I know it's not gonna be perfect, but if they know of these things, they better let us know.
Yeah, and I haven't done that yet, but that's a good.
No, I mean, this was the first night, this is starting to come up right now, but we're right in the,
Yeah.
this is half of them tonight, we'll do the other half next month, so we're plenty of lead time with their applications and for planning, so.
Yep,
So we need to take an action on this?
yes.
And your recommendation is? this
My
is-
recommendation is for approval, and if it's approved, it'll go to council on Monday for their first reading, so, yeah.
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All's in favor, so saying aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
And then item number 7 is the County Highway Route N funding adjustment.
Yes, so last month we talked about Route N, and I was all over the place. So this month, we do have a status update and kind of how we're moving forward. So what has happened is that we had this EA that we thought was going to become an approved EA, and we had an agreement with the Missouri Federal Highway that we would put 30 million in local funds on the East-West Gateways long-range plan, and that would get us an approved EA. When they took that to the federal level, the federal FHWA said that was not acceptable. They needed the whole project on the long-range plan for the East-West Gateway to be able to do the air conformity requirement on it, just a model they have to run. So they came back to us and said, okay, county, you can put $150 million in local funds on this, or we can convert it to a PEL, which is a planning and environmental linkages study. So I-70 was a PEL. It is a much less detailed PEL than this one is, because this is a completed EA document. It's done. It just hasn't gone, it's just not approved because we couldn't put the money in. So basically what the PEL is going to do is we are, well, I think right now, MoDOT is having meetings with Federal Highway to determine NEPA classifications on each phase of the project. So there are 4 phases. 3 of them have an A and B, so there's actually 7 phases. Each phase is given its own classification, which generally, I'm told they're all going to be CE2s, which are categorical exclusions, and the process is really easy. You just kind of go through the impacts as you do your preliminary plans, and there's not any major documentation required. So the EA will kind of be the backup for each of those submittals for the categorical exclusions, and the projects can move forward. So with that, we decided that we would put, oh, and she took away my slide. Hey, Ashley, can you put my slides back up?
Does somebody wanting to get in the meeting?
There we go. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I don't know what that noise is. We decided to, let me see if I can get this back to, there we go. Just commit $10 million, so now we don't have to make this huge commitment up front. So we went back to 10 million, and, because we had to put something on the long-range plan. It had to be locally funded because MoDOT's not going to fund anything right now. So anyway, so we put 10 million on, and we are looking at doing the Buckner Road realignment. So this is all of the phases. So we're looking at 3A, 3B, and 4. And it's 4 lanes in the future, but right now we're just gonna build 2 and acquire right-of-way for 4. So with that, County Highway already has 3 projects that cover this whole corridor. So instead of doing a resolution with the council that says we're going to commit $10 million and really doesn't commit us to anything, we decided that we would just go ahead and modify these projects so that they include the funds, and we can give that information to East-West Gateway, and we're good to move forward on the project. So the first of those is the South Point Prairie reconstruction. There was 500,000, I'm not gonna read all this, but there was $500,000 obligated for 2021, and there's more for the next years, which you can find in your big sheet. So that would be increased to $2,715,000 to cover the additional right-of-way cost along this portion. This portion right here, where they're buying a residence and kind of buying some right-of-way to do these curves. So that is that one. And we would also be renaming these so that they adjustment instead of taking an amendment of, because County Highway doesn't have an agreement with us, and it's complicated to take a tip amendment to the council. So we are just looking at doing a budget adjustment with our actual budget.
So you're committing 10 million, what are you doing? You're saying you're making a commitment.
We're moving the funds to, so the amount doesn't equal 10 million because we already had 5 million plus in the budget. So we're just showing them that we have 10 million in 2021 to commit to building this project.
And you kind of just lumped it all under a mass Highway N. Anything that was associated with Highway N, you're trying to take credit for?
No, we're adjusting these projects to fit in what needs to be done for those 3 segments of Highway N.
But they weren't part of that 3 segments, you're just readjusting the budget to tag it to other things that would increase the cost? And then
These projects were part of those 3 segments.
Oh, they were part of the 3?
Yeah,
Okay,
they
I'm
were just
sorry.
kind of, yeah, they were not moving to construction because they were part of those 3 segments. So they'd kind of just been hanging out for a while.
Well, some of the money was already here, okay.
But the money had been earmarked, yeah. And we actually, DHP Phase 3 was earmarked for this.
David Hokel Parkway.
Yeah, David Hokel Parkway, Phase 3, the one where we were gonna go through, that, I can't point, to the, initially they looked at going, good Lord, through here. So those funds had been, held, but then I got rid of them for ZNN. So, there have been past approvals that have been taken away too. So we're just kind of reallocating money back to these projects, and taking it out of other items in the budget for this year, so that it's clean and can be done easily.
So some money from David Hokel Parkway is going into the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same projects, just
Same project, different name.
increased cost a little bit because of additional right-of-way and additional scope. Yeah. Extending limits, yeah.
They're looking for an approval on a budget adjustment and I guess renaming of
Yeah,
what we're calling them.
yes, so it's overall, I think it was, gosh,
4.515.
thank you, 4.515, and we're taking it from the reserve, where we had $5 million for this year, so 2 million from that, and then a little over 2.5 from the Economic Development Fund. And if we need those back, we can always readjust later, so it's not really critical. We have funds out there. And in actuality, these probably won't be spent in 2021. We're just putting them there now, and we'll roll them over when they're needed.
So 2 questions. This
Yep.
is just to kind of check that federal box that will allow us to claim those federal dollars. Okay.
No, there's no federal dollars, but it will allow
Potentially.
the project, in the future, and for the project to move forward, yes.
And then these are not actual overruns, these are just increases
Correct.
to get us to that number.
Right, those projects were going fine, everything was good. These are extending the scope, purchasing more right-of-way to fit in the footprint that MoDOT established, yeah. And eventually, this road will likely be, we'll do a road swap with MoDOT, so they'll take this road and we'll take old Route N, Route N, And I would hope that by then, maybe they can do the widening to 4 lanes. We can get that off our plate. So that's what I have for Route In for right now.
So you need approval.
I need an approval.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Oh, I had those on the
Could
slides.
you read that motion back to me? Just kidding. I'm just.
There it is.
Any questions? All's in favor?
Somebody second it?
Yeah.
I second it.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Any new business this evening? Under other business, the next meeting will be Wednesday, May 19th. Will that be here again? Okay, so same location. And we'll hear from the other sponsors and go from there. Motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.